Hello, I'm Ranger Laura, the park interpreter at Andrew Jackson State Park. Our staff is so excited that you're coming to visit us soon on your field study. We hope that this video will be informative and help you learn a little bit about what school was like for Andrew Jackson when he was a child.
Greetings and good morrow. This is the Andrew Jackson State Park Little Schoolhouse, and I'd like you to join me inside. Well, here we are inside, and here's one of the items that the children used at that time. This is a small slate.
Here you see a slate, also known as a slate board. These were used by students in the 18th and 19th centuries to do their lessons. Unlike paper, slates could be reused over and over again. Once you had written something on the slate, you could easily erase it with a small cloth. Slates were very popular to be used in the classroom to practice handwriting skills and math skills. This school supply is named for the rock that it's made of. Here you see an image of what slate looks like in nature. The rock is cut into the shape needed for the slate board, and then the edges are covered with pieces of wood.
This is a slate pencil. This is what the children would use if they were trying to draw their name or any type of item at all. And as you can see, it makes a nice circle.
Well, that slate pencil definitely didn't make a pleasant sound. Remember, when you're at the park writing on your slate, don't press down too hard. If you don't press too hard, you won't get that noise. But let's talk about slate pencils. Slate pencils are made from minerals that are less dense than the slate boards themselves. Slate pencils can be made from a lower grade piece of slate, or you could have slate pencils like the ones that you will use at the park that are made from ground slate, which has been compressed back together to form a pencil. Any material that is less dense than the slate board itself, including the soapstone seen here on the left, can be used as a slate pencil. You can write on the slate and then easily erase these minerals later. I'm sure some of you have been wondering, why are they calling that a slate? What's a slate pencil? I thought those were called chalkboards. Well, they are also known as chalkboards. However, slate pencils have an advantage over chalk. Slate pencils are created from a denser rock than the mineral chalk. Chalk, because it's less dense, is more likely to rub off of the slate board accidentally, whereas the lessons that you wrote with your slate pencil are more likely to not be easily rubbed off of the slate. So which would be easier for you to carry home with you if you had to walk home from your one-room schoolhouse? Would it be something written on the board with the more dense slate pencil, or something written on the board with the less dense chalk?
Now this is something that the children would first receive, and this is called a horn book.
Horn books were popular in the European and colonial schools for about 300 years. They were called horn books because they were made with cow horn. Unfortunately, the reproductions that we have in our one-room schoolhouse at the park are not made of cow horn. Since we don't have the real thing to look at the park, let's look at some artifacts. In this example, we can see that a thin layer of cow horn has been attached to a board with a handle. Under the cow horn is a sheet of paper. This horn book has a text that is similar to the one used in our reproduction horn books. It has upper and lower case letters, as well as vowel sounds and syllables. It also has 2 prayers listed, including the Lord's Prayer. It has a hole through which a cord is drawn. You can use the cord so that you can carry it around your neck or around your wrist. Horn books were made in different ways. This horn book is made completely of cow horn, with the exception of the paper. This lesson is also handwritten rather than printed. In this example, we see that the letters are carved onto the cow horn itself, with the lowercase letters on the back side and the uppercase letters on the front side. Some horn books were fancier than others. This fancy one is made of ivory. It was probably made for use in an upper-class home. There are even some that were more fancy, which were made of silver. Look at this horn book. It's very unique. It even has an abacus attached to the top to help teach early math skills. We almost take for granted the easy access that we have to knowledge today. Before the internet was invented and most of us gained access to it in our homes, the majority of our knowledge was gained from reading books. However, when Andrew Jackson was a child, books were not easy to come by on the frontier. The printing process was much more expensive than it is today. Most books had to be imported from Europe. There was no local library in the Waxhaws where Andy could borrow books. Families who could afford it would purchase books to be used by all of their children as they progressed through school. Most books were borrowed by students from the schoolmaster. Students in the 18th century had to listen very carefully to their schoolmasters. The students had to take notes, write down their vocabulary words, and their math problems as the schoolmaster recited them.
And this is a book that you'd find in almost any schoolhouse. It's the Bible. And it's something that may even be found in many of the homes. And they would try and protect the Bible by putting a cloth cover over it.
When you come to the schoolhouse, you'll see an example of an antique book that has been covered with cloth. Before you come out on your field study, ask your parents or grandparents how they protected their school books when they were growing up.
And here's something else that the children used. It's called a copybook. What this is a piece of leather with scrap paper, and they end up threading that in and tying it into here for their copybook so they could take their lessons.
Just like books, paper was in short supply on the frontier. It was a labor-intensive process to make paper before the Industrial Revolution. In addition, most settlers on the frontier had to travel many miles to reach stores where they could buy paper. Students had to use paper sparingly. They often used old scraps of paper. They may write on both sides of the page or even write in different directions on the same page to try to save paper. Copybooks were used in the way that we use notebooks today. As you can see in these original copybooks, they used copybooks to practice their handwriting as well as math. They could draw pictures, they could record their times tables, or even important facts that they wanted to memorize. What kinds of things do you write in your notebooks? Do you think that Andrew Jackson used the same school supplies to write in his copybook that you used to write in your notebooks?
And here's something else that would be critical. A quill. This is actually a feather that's been cut down to be used as a pen. And we would need some ink for it. So this would be the ink well, so they could get ink off of it to be able to write.
After listening to the schoolmaster, I guess you've discovered that Andrew Jackson probably wrote with a quill pen when he was writing in his copybook. So what's the difference between a feather and a quill? Every quill is a feather, but not every feather is a quill. Quills have to be cut and shaped to be used as a pen. Turkey feathers and goose feathers were the best feathers for making quills. Inkwells came in many shapes and sizes and were used to store ink. We will talk more about ink while you're here at the park on your field study. Our park staff and many volunteers are looking forward to meeting you. We hope that you come to the park with a positive attitude. We can't wait to answer your many questions and show you just a little bit about what life was like for Andrew Jackson as a child. See you soon at the park.